Your belly fat isn't about laziness. It's about a hormone quietly working against you every single day. Millions blame themselves for lacking discipline, yet they're actually fighting a biological process they never learned to understand. That workout that melted fat in your 20s suddenly does nothing once you hit your 30s or 40s. The hidden culprit behind that frustrating shift has a name, and that name is insulin resistance. Insulin isn't your enemy. It's one of the most essential hormones your body produces every single day. Every time you eat, insulin carries glucose from your bloodstream into your cells to be used as fuel. Under normal conditions, this system runs smoothly, quietly, efficiently, without you ever noticing it working at all. But when insulin stays elevated meal after meal, day after day, your cells stop listening properly. Your pancreas panics and produces even more insulin, trying desperately to force glucose into resistant, tired cells. This creates a vicious cycle that stores fat faster, increases cravings, and drains your energy relentlessly. Before learning the 5 strategies that reverse this cycle, you need to understand exactly how it started. Once that mechanism becomes clear, every solution you're about to learn will finally make complete sense. Most people unknowingly sabotage their metabolism within the first 30 minutes of waking up every morning. Think about your typical morning, after 7 or 8 hours without any food entering your body. During that overnight stretch, insulin naturally drops, letting your body tap into stored fat for energy. In other words, you've already entered a powerful fat-burning window without doing anything at all. Then breakfast arrives, often cereal, toast, pastries, sweetened yogurt, juice, or a sugary protein bar. These foods feel convenient, but they spike blood sugar rapidly, triggering a much larger insulin response. If your cells are already resistant, that oversized insulin spike makes the entire cycle harder to break. That's exactly why many metabolic experts recommend delaying your first meal instead of eating immediately. Extending your overnight fast gives your body extra time to burn stored energy before insulin rises again. This isn't about starving yourself or skipping breakfast forever. It's simply giving your metabolism breathing room. Staying hydrated makes fasting far easier, with water, black coffee, or unsweetened tea as reliable choices. Some people also add electrolytes if their body needs extra support during a longer fasting window. But timing is only half of the equation, because what you eat matters just as much. Here's something most people never consider. It's not just when you eat, it's what you choose. Imagine 2 different breakfasts sitting side by side on 2 very different kitchen tables. One person starts with sugary cereal and a tall glass of orange juice. Another chooses eggs with Greek yogurt or grilled chicken paired with creamy avocado. Both meals contain calories, yet they trigger completely different hormonal responses inside your body. The first meal spikes blood sugar rapidly, followed by a larger insulin release and renewed hunger. The second meal digests slowly, keeping you satisfied while supplying the building blocks your muscles need. Protein is especially powerful because it does far more than simply support muscle growth. It's the most filling macronutrient, naturally reducing overeating later in the day. Digesting protein burns more energy than digesting carbs or fats, so your body works harder.
Pairing protein with healthy fats like eggs, nuts, olive oil, or avocado slows digestion beautifully. That doesn't mean carbohydrates are your enemy. Your body genuinely needs them, especially if you're active. The goal isn't fearing carbs, it's using them strategically around the times you actually move. Eating carb-rich foods around exercise lets your body burn them as fuel efficiently. But even the perfect meal can't fully compensate for a lack of muscle. One type of exercise dramatically improves insulin sensitivity, even before significant weight loss ever occurs. If you asked most people how to lose stubborn belly fat, they'd say run farther, spend more time on the treadmill, sweat through another brutal high-intensity workout, push harder every single day. But what if the most effective fix isn't more cardio at all? It's building muscle instead. Most people think of muscle as something that simply changes how their body looks. In reality, muscle is one of the largest, most powerful metabolic organs inside your entire body. Every pound of healthy muscle gives your body more capacity to pull glucose from your blood. Muscle contains specialized proteins called GLUT4 transporters that move glucose into cells during contraction. When your muscles contract during resistance training, these transporters work even with less reliance on insulin. Over time, regular strength training improves insulin sensitivity, making blood sugar management dramatically easier. The good news is you don't need to live inside a gym to see real results. 3 or 4 well-designed resistance sessions each week are enough for most people. Focus on exercises recruiting large muscle groups like squats, rows, presses, deadlifts, and lunges. These compound movements stimulate more tissue, burn more energy, and create stronger metabolic responses overall. Perhaps the biggest surprise is these improvements often begin long before dramatic weight loss appears anywhere visible. But there's another habit working alongside strength training that places almost no stress on your body. When people decide it's time to lose weight, their first instinct is making workouts harder immediately. They start sprinting, joining intense fitness classes, pushing themselves through exhausting, breathless cardio sessions constantly. It feels productive because they're sweating more, but harder isn't always genuinely better here. One of the most overlooked tools available to almost everyone is simply walking daily. Not just any walk, but a brisk, steady walk at what's called Zone 2 intensity. This is the pace where breathing becomes slightly heavier, yet you can still hold a conversation. At this intensity, your body relies more heavily on fat as its primary fuel source. There's another advantage rarely discussed. Regular Zone 2 walking helps build healthier, more efficient mitochondria inside your cells. Think of mitochondria as tiny power plants responsible for producing energy throughout your entire body. Every healthier and more numerous they become, the better your body burns fat all day long. Even better, walking places far less stress on your joints than intense pounding workout sessions do. That makes recovery easier, consistency easier, and long-term sustainability far more realistic for busy, tired people. Aim for 20 to 30 minutes of brisk walking on most days throughout your week. Many people find walking before their first meal fits naturally into their existing daily routine.
But even daily walks and consistent strength training can't overcome one habit that quietly disrupts everything nightly. Imagine spending an entire day eating well, lifting weights, walking consistently, only to undo it while sleeping. It sounds unbelievable, yet sleep is one of the most powerful regulators of blood sugar and appetite. Many people think sleep is simply about feeling rested the next morning after waking. In reality, sleep is when your body performs its most important metabolic maintenance work. During healthy sleep, your brain and hormones restore insulin sensitivity, regulate appetite, and support muscle recovery fully. When sleep becomes too short or consistently poor, that delicate hormonal balance begins shifting dramatically overnight. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, tends to remain elevated, disrupting insulin's ability to function properly. Higher cortisol increases hunger while encouraging your body to store more fat around your abdomen. At the same time, poor sleep reduces testosterone production, making it harder to maintain muscle. Fortunately, improving sleep doesn't require complicated biohacks or expensive gadgets sitting beside your bed. Start by keeping a consistent bedtime even on weekends when staying up feels tempting. Try finishing your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed so digestion doesn't interfere. Reduce bright screen exposure during the final hour of your evening before climbing into bed. Keep your bedroom cool, quiet, and dark to support your body's natural sleep cycle. Think of sleep as the foundation allowing every other healthy habit you build to actually work. Without it, progress slows dramatically, but with it, your body burns fat far more efficiently. There's one final piece tying all these habits together, and it explains why some people transform. By now, you've noticed a pattern. None of these strategies are extreme or complicated in any way. There are no detox teas, no miracle supplements, no promises of losing 10 pounds instantly. Yet these simple habits consistently outperform complicated fat loss programs people spend hundreds of dollars chasing. Why does this happen? Because lasting transformation isn't driven by a single perfect habit alone. It's driven by how all these different habits work together, reinforcing one another constantly. Think about it like building a house where a weak foundation ruins even a beautiful roof. In the same way, eating more protein can't fully overcome chronic, relentless sleep deprivation either. Strength training can't fully compensate for constant blood sugar spikes happening throughout your entire day. Walking every day won't erase the effects of consistent chronic overeating on your metabolism. Each habit strengthens the others, creating an environment where your hormones finally work with you. This is where many people get stuck, chasing the newest workout or another restrictive diet trend. When results slow down, they assume the plan failed instead of examining the bigger picture. In reality, they were trying to fix a complex system by changing only one small piece. People who achieve lasting fat loss usually approach things completely differently than everyone else does. They stop searching for shortcuts and start building routines they can repeat consistently week after week. Their progress isn't always dramatic overnight, but becomes remarkably consistent over several months of steady effort. That's the real goal, not simply losing weight, but rebuilding a smarter, more efficient metabolism.
At this point, you might wonder, this all makes sense, but where do I actually begin? The answer is simpler than most people expect. You don't need to change everything overnight. In fact, trying to do everything at once is why most people quit within weeks. Instead, think of these strategies as a chain, where every habit strengthens the very next one. Here's what that could realistically look like throughout an ordinary, achievable day for you. Wake up and hydrate before reaching for food, extending your overnight fasting window if appropriate. When it's time for your first meal, build it around protein and minimally processed whole foods. Throughout the week, prioritize resistance training 3 or 4 times while walking briskly every single day. What matters most is giving your muscles regular reasons to grow, adapt, and stay active. Then, finish each day by protecting your sleep like you protect your diet religiously. A consistent bedtime, fewer screens before bed, and a cool, dark bedroom help your body recover. Notice that none of these habits depend on perfect motivation. They depend entirely on simple repetition instead. People who experience lasting change rarely follow extreme plans. They perform small actions until automatic. Once that happens, fat loss becomes less of a constant battle and more of a consequence. Before finishing, there's one more thing you absolutely need to know about this journey. Many people adopt healthier habits, yet months later wonder why their waistline hasn't changed as expected. In many cases, the problem isn't that they're doing nothing, it's a few small mistakes. The first mistake is expecting overnight results. Since insulin resistance doesn't develop within just a few weeks, it builds gradually over years of inactivity, excess calories, poor sleep, and chronic stress. That means restoring better metabolic health also takes real, patient time to happen. Early improvements often happen inside your body long before they're visible in any mirror anywhere. Your fasting blood sugar may improve, your energy may steady, afternoon cravings may finally disappear. These are signs your metabolism is changing, even if the scale hasn't moved dramatically yet. The second mistake is relying entirely on exercise while completely ignoring nutrition and what you're eating. You can't consistently out-train frequent overeating or a diet built around heavily processed foods. The third mistake is trying to be perfect. Since one unhealthy meal won't erase your progress, what matters is the pattern you repeat most often, because consistency always beats short bursts of intensity. Finally, don't judge your progress using only body weight. Pay attention to other important signals too. Watch your waist measurement, how your clothes fit, your daily energy, and your sleep quality. These changes often appear before major fat loss becomes visible on any scale. Once you start noticing these small victories, you're closer than you realize to breaking this frustrating cycle. Let's bring everything together now, because if there's one message worth remembering, it's simply this. Stubborn belly fat isn't a sign that you're lazy or lack willpower like you feared. More often, it's a signal your metabolism adapted to years of repeated blood sugar spikes and stress. The encouraging news is your metabolism isn't fixed permanently. It can adapt in the opposite direction. You don't have to overhaul your entire life starting tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. sharp. Instead, focus on a handful of habits that reinforce one another naturally over time. Delay your first meal when appropriate. Break your fast with a protein-rich, minimally processed meal.
Lift weights several times each week to preserve and build valuable metabolically active muscle tissue. Walk consistently, especially after meals or at a comfortable, brisk pace most days.
Protect your sleep as carefully as you protect your diet, because recovery drives real hormonal change. Then give your body something it rarely receives in today's rushed, hurried world: real consistency. Commit to following these habits for the next 30 days without chasing shortcuts or dramatic changes. Instead of checking the scale every morning, pay attention to the signals that actually matter most. Is your waist getting smaller? Do you have steadier energy throughout each afternoon session? Are you sleeping more deeply? Are your cravings becoming noticeably less frequent than they used to be? Those are often the earliest signs your metabolism is finally moving in the right direction. Remember, the goal isn't simply losing weight, it's rebuilding a body that manages blood sugar efficiently, a body that stores less excess fat and gives you real energy for everyday life. Your metabolism spent years learning to work against you, and now it's finally ready to change.